Hi team, Melissa from Melissa vs Fibromyalgia here, and welcome to this very special video where I lay out basically how I got to where I am. So how I went from miserable to thriving despite fibromyalgia. And after we talk about my story and the key things that I have done, we're going to talk a little bit about coaching and all of the things that I offer, hopefully so that I can help you. So basically, back in 2010, I was 25 years old. I was trying so hard to work full time. I was miserable every day. I didn't understand how I couldn't just cope with life. I was basically in pain and exhausted every single day. I don't quite know how I managed to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I didn't sleep well at all. I was in very high levels of pain, and I had been given the word fibromyalgia, but I hadn't been given any help whatsoever from the doctor. And I tried all sorts of treatments. I tried physios and acupunctures and osteopaths and all that sort of thing, and nothing really helped at all. And so I was just in this spiral of taking medicines that made things worse and not getting any respite at all, not sleeping very well at all, and I was just miserable, and I was missing out on life. So my kind of key friends started going overseas to do their OEs, and I just couldn't do it. I was struggling to work 9 to 5. Basically, I did very little on the weekend, and Sundays I couldn't do anything at all. Occasionally I made it to church, but generally I couldn't even do that. And I had this idea this whole time that if I could reduce my work hours a little bit, I would create some space, and that would help me with my symptoms. And the doctor at the time discouraged me from doing that. She said that I would be disappointed because I would still be sore and exhausted, and that I would just have less money. But I couldn't keep going the way it was. I don't know how much longer I would have survived, to be honest, going on that way. But luckily, my parents said that they were moving to a different city, which was a warmer city in Auckland, and they were taking my brothers, who were still at school at the time, and would I like to come? And I said, yeah, that would be really amazing. So I packed up my life and moved up to Auckland with them, which is at the top, or more closer to the top of the North Island, and it is much warmer than where we were living. So I do think that played a part, but I was also able to reduce my work hours. So I was able to get a position where I worked 27.5 hours, and instead of taking an hour bus each way to work, I was able to drive, and it was only a half an hour each way. And so for the first year, really, that's all I could do. I think my body was kind of trying to recover from burnout. But gradually I noticed that I was getting just a little bit better, and I was able to create that space to start researching and trying things to help myself. I found an amazing physiotherapist who I didn't realize it at the time, but she was working on my trigger points, and so her work was giving me the most benefit anything had before. It wasn't holding, and it wasn't making huge differences to my pain levels, but it was helping. And I was able to start exercising really slowly. So when I had moved in the first place, I realized that I was doing far too much exercise, because everybody says exercise, keep moving, and I was moving way too much. And when I reduced the exercise, I actually reduced a lot of the pain, especially around my glutes and my thighs. And what I now know is that I have very, very active trigger points in my glutes. And so all the exercise I was doing was just aggravating it like crazy. So after a bit of a break, I was able to resume walking, and so I just did gentle walking, and I started with 10 minutes, and then I did 15, and I slowly worked up to the point where once or twice a week I'd do a 40-minute walk, but the rest of the time I did 20 minutes, and that was quite enough for me. And I was just able to start kind of reading things and trying things out, and it just got to the point where I was able to kind of put things together to make a really solid plan. Unfortunately, it still did take quite a few years after that. I had to spend a lot of time researching, and as you'll see if you look back through the archives of my blog, you'll see they stretch far, and I tried many, many things on myself. So it did take some time, because I've had to really look for everything myself. I've had to do the research myself, and I think the biggest change came 2 years ago when I found low-dose naltrexone. And again, that has kind of had a knock-on effect in helping me find other things. So things that didn't make a difference before are now making a difference. And so I'm kind of re-experimenting again to put things into place. But I am in the best place possible now. I know that I can keep getting better. Even with a 5-month-old baby who wakes up every 1 or 2 hours, I am still sleeping better than I ever did before. And I am profoundly grateful for that every single day. It makes a huge difference, not only physically or in terms of my fatigue, but emotionally, because every night was a fight. And it was a long night. And so now knowing that I can sleep better and that I can have some proper rest with my meditation, it's just made a huge difference on my quality of life, on my basically every count you can think of. So it's very exciting. So let's first maybe talk about the key things that I did. So the first key thing I did was reduce, and I kind of learned to pace. So I didn't learn the word pacing until a bit later, but that's what I was doing. And simple pain relief. So I just really slowly started building up and trying things. And research, so I was able to, have a look at what's out there and what might work and start thinking of things to try. And then that's the trial and error part. So I was trying things here and there, and I would try something and I would see how it would go, and then if it didn't work, get rid of it and try something else. So it's a painstaking process, but I did that work over a lot of years. But what I've found is that fibromyalgia is a puzzle. So we are human beings, and we kind of have to treat our whole life because fibromyalgia is pervasive. It affects pretty much every part of our life, and we are still normal human beings, so we still have to look after ourselves as normal human beings. But in terms of the puzzle, the major puzzle pieces, some of them will be very similar. For example, I have a feeling that sleep will be a big puzzle piece for pretty much all of us. And Dr. Teitelbaum, who writes about fibromyalgia and has fibromyalgia himself, suggests that if you don't have a problem sleeping, then you don't have fibromyalgia. So that's something to think about. But what actually fits in that puzzle is going to look a little bit different for you to what mine looks like. But I share what mine looks like so that you can get a sense of where to start. So my puzzle really focuses on things like my work-life balance for my immediate context. So that's changed over the years. So when I had my first child, I wasn't in such a good place in my health, so I worked less. After my second child, I was in a better place with my health, so I worked a little bit more. And so those things change, and you need to keep that, I think, front of mind when you're looking at your work-life balance for the minute. Low-dose naltrexone is a huge thing for me, and I have a lot of information about that on the blog, so I don't want to go into it too far, but this has been big for me, and I'm so thankful for it. Meditation, again, that's another thing, and that's another multi-pronged approach. So I started doing meditation because it helped me get some rest. I was exhausted and I can't nap and I sleep terribly. So meditation was a way to get some rest. But what I noticed is over time, it was helping me reduce that fight or flight response. And there's a multitude of benefits to that. And I mean, I'm less anxious, my digestion is improved, and I can just feel it. I can feel that I am more calm in myself. So there's a lot of benefits to that one as well. And yoga and exercise. So for me, yoga is amazing because you can tailor it to what you need in the day. So sometimes that means I can do a 20 or 30 minute sun salutation series, but sometimes it means I'm just doing 1 or 2 stretches. And that's okay. That's really great because you do need to tailor it to yourself every day. Because in terms of exercise, what you did yesterday or last week may not reflect what you can do today. If you are in a flare, you definitely need to be really gentle. And so just paying attention is really useful. And physiotherapy and acupuncture. So what I have noticed is that placing acupuncture needles in my key trigger points and just leaving them there gently to encourage blood flow really helps them release, and that's actually the best physical treatment that works for me. But then that is a perpetuating factor for me. So that's another big puzzle piece, is your perpetuating factors. What other illnesses are occurring? What else is going on here? And for me, myofascial pain syndrome is a big part. I only found out about it a couple of years ago, which is a real shame because my neck was a big problem for a long time. And if somebody could have taught me about trigger points a long time ago, I would have been able to make a big difference in my quality of life. But we're working on it now, which is very exciting. And so when you're tackling things like the myofascial pain syndrome, so when we're tackling the neck and keeping it under control, we are not exacerbating the fibromyalgia as much. So you do have to look at perpetuating factors. So the key points really are that it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of research and trial and error. And it is multiple things. I very rarely hear of one magic fix, and it's definitely not one magic fix for me. And it's not perfect. So I still have flares. I still deal with pain all day, every day. So I never want anyone to think that we are using the C word here. I don't use the word cure. I know some people do, and some people experience such radical improvement that they would say they are cured. And that's all good. I don't want to start an argument about anything, but I don't use that word, and I definitely don't deal in false hope. So how I can help, I guess, is that I get it, and I've been there, and now I have the research and the resources to help. So I have this insatiable curiosity. So as I was doing the research for myself, I was translating it into blog posts. So you will see that there's a lot of research and information provided on my blog, so it's combining my experience with that information. And in some cases there isn't a lot of information out there, like in the area of pregnancy with fibromyalgia, and in some cases there's lots. So I provide that, and I've also gone one step further and created a ton of resources. So I have an entire Etsy store of templates that are designed to help people with their fight. So things that I've used for myself, for example, I have a flare plan. So when I start to feel symptoms intensifying, I go straight to that flare plan and start enacting those coping mechanisms. Because I noticed that once I started to get quite sore and exhausted, I would forget and I would spiral further down. Whereas now I can head it off quite fast and really reduce how far those flares take hold. So there's heaps of those kinds of resources there. But ultimately what I want to do is empower you to take control of your healing journey yourself and improve your quality of life. Because self-efficacy is huge. I have made a huge difference to myself. I have had precisely one helpful doctor, and that doctor has been amazing and encouraging and supportive, but he hasn't actually had a lot to suggest to me to try. So I really have had to do it myself. But even if you do have a supportive doctor, usually they don't have a lot of time to spend with you to go through things in fine detail, so you need a bit of help in that area. But also it's actually you every single day making choices. So in that sense, you have a lot of power. So what do I have? What do I offer? So I have 200 plus posts on my blog about managing fibromyalgia and while being pregnant as well. I have YouTube videos. I have 2 Facebook groups, one for pregnancy and one just for fibromyalgia fighting. I have a book, Melissa versus Fibromyalgia, My Journey Fighting Chronic Pain, Chronic Fatigue and Insomnia. I have a book about pregnancy and fibromyalgia. I have an Etsy store, and I have personalized one-on-one and group coaching programs. So now we're just going to chat a little bit about what coaching is and why I chose to become one and what the benefits are. So coaching is a partnership between a coach and a client where the coach supports, encourages, and provides accountability while the client works toward their goals. So a life coach is not a therapist or a trained health professional. They are trained in the process of change and sometimes have expertise in their niche, as I do in the area of fibromyalgia. I have it because I have lived experience and I've done a lot of research. A life coach helps you to plan forward. If you need counseling or medical health services, you need to contact your local health agency because that's not what a coach does. So why did I choose to become one? Basically, if I had had someone who could have come to me and said, I believe you, here's a place to start, and how are you really, my journey would have been much shorter. I wouldn't have lost the entirety of my 20s, and I wouldn't have been so miserable. Basically, it would have saved me a lot of time. So I'm pretty passionate about becoming a coach and being a coach and working with people, because I just don't want people to live through what I lived through. So what are the benefits of coaching? To fill the gap in the current healthcare system. So people with fibromyalgia are falling through because doctors have teeny tiny appointment times, and a doctor can give you a suggestion, perhaps, if you have a good one, but they can't tell you how to enact it step by step because they just don't have the time to do that. It also reduces the time it takes to put together your wellness plan, to have someone more experienced come alongside you and really help you focus on it. Increased functionality so that you are able to do more. Decreased impact on your life. Support and understanding. So more specifically, the benefits of these sessions with me are understanding, so having a person to speak to who gets it, a specific set of things to do in order to manage the symptoms. So that's making an action plan and following through on the action plan, and then fine-tuning it afterwards. And to provide the resources that you might be too exhausted, sore, or unsure how to find. And that's actually really important. So if you are struggling through work or trying to raise your children, and you probably just don't have the time or energy to look for these resources, you need to put all your energy into actually healing. So that's the shortcut that I can provide. And this is to help you take control of your journey to wellness. So this is not about me taking control or telling you what your goals should be. This is about you having goals and taking control, because ultimately it's you day to day and you have the power. And in case of the group coaching program, we get a small community who is doing the journey together. So we get to bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other. And I just don't think there's anything more valuable than having people who understand what you're going through. So how can you get started? You can request a complimentary session with me, and we can chat about what area you might need help with and how I might be able to help, and if you're in a position right now for coaching. Because if you're not in a position to get the most out of it, then I don't want to waste your time, your energy, or your money. Like I said earlier, I've got a lot of other things for you. So if you're not in that position yet, there's a lot here. Now, I am not in the business of selling something you don't need. So if right now you're not into coaching, totally fine. Like I said before, I've got all those blog posts. I have the YouTube channel. I have a micro course. I've got a free micro course. There's a lot of things, and I'm going to provide you a handout with links so that you can start accessing it. But this is just about that extra ability to go further. So to plan one-on-one, to really come alongside you, give you the tools you specifically need and the advice you specifically need, and help you as you make your plan. Because it's one thing to have a goal, but really if you don't make a plan and put it into place, it's not going to happen. And it's just about efficiency, having someone who's already done it come alongside you. So that's basically everything around the coaching, about what it is and why I'm doing it. If you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. So you can email me hello@melissaversusfibromyalgia.com, and I do provide a handout. So there's a heap of links there to access the things that I've talked about, and also to catch your complimentary call to have a discussion with me. So I am really excited to talk to you about this. I am so passionate. I can get a little bit evangelical at times. I just really am so excited about this new chapter in my life and what I can offer people. So do get in contact, and do keep up with all the resources, and do let me know if there's any more areas you want information about that I haven't yet written about. I will see you again soon. Bye.